तो गुड इवनिंग डियर स्टूडेंट्स। आज हम बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक पढ़ने वाले हैं, प्लांट फिजियोलॉजी की। इससे पहले आपने फोटोसिंथेसिस इन हायर प्लांट्स पढ़ा। नाउ आई एम गोइंग टू टीच यू रेस्पिरेशन इन प्लांट्स, अ वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक एंड अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक with with purpose to need. So today the chapter is respiration in plants. We can call this respiration in plants as cellular respiration, or we can say that it is cellular. This chapter can be renamed as cellular respiration in plants. So we can also say this as cellular respiration, because we all know that this respiration, cellular respiration, why we term it as cellular respiration? Because respiration process takes place only in the living cells of the organisms. आप में से बहुत सारे बच्चे सोचते हैं, means you must be confusing, you must have this confusion that respiration is same as breathing, or breathing and respiration are synonymous. But पहले मैं आपको बता दूं breathing का क्या मतलब होता है. Breathing is simply exchange of gases with the surrounding atmosphere, that is taking in of oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. The simple process of exchange of gases with the atmosphere is referred to as breathing. But respiration is not exchange of gases. What is respiration and what is the significance of respiration? तो सबसे पहले हम आते हैं, before defining respiration, I want to tell you what is the significance or importance of respiration. Because इस दुनिया में, इस हमारे अर्थ पे ऐसा कोई भी बायोलॉजिकल प्रोसेस नहीं होता जिस which takes place without any purpose. तो what is the significance of respiration? रेस्पिरेशन वो प्रक्रिया है जिससे बहुत सारी एनर्जी रिलीज होती है. किसी भी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म में रेस्पिरेशन के दौरान देयर इज रिलीज ऑफ ट्रिमेंडस और कंसिडरेबल अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी, और इस एनर्जी के बिना कोई भी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म, बी इट प्लांट बी इट एनिमल्स, कैन नॉट सर्वाइव. सो आप ये पूछ सकते हैं कि क्या रेस्पिरेशन बैक्टीरिया में होता है? हाँ, बिल्कुल होता है. So no living organism can survive without respiration, because respiration वो process होता है जिससे बहुत सारी energy release होती है. और आपको पता है कि किसी भी living organism में energy is available in the form of adenosine triphosphate molecules. That is why ATP is called as, or adenosine triphosphate molecules are referred to as, the energy currency of the cell. So whatever energy that is released during respiration, it is utilized or it is trapped as ATP. So this is the significance of energy. और इस energy से बहुत सारी और plants and animals में ऐसी बहुत सारी cellular activities होती हैं inside the body of living organisms which require energy. जैसे कि transport. आपने पढ़ा होगा एक तरह का ट्रांसपोर्ट होता है एक्टिव ट्रांसपोर्ट, विच इन्वॉल्व्स पंपिंग ऑफ सब्सटेंसेस अक्रॉस द मेम्ब्रेन. इसके लिए भी क्या होता है? एटीपी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. देन द प्रोसेस ऑफ एब्जॉर्प्शन रिक्वायर्स एनर्जी. रिप्रोडक्शन ऐसा प्रोसेस है जिसमें बहुत सारी एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. देन असेंबलिंग ऑफ पॉलीमर्स, मोनोमर्स से पॉलीमर्स बनने के लिए भी बहुत सारी एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. ठीक है. सो ऐसे बहुत सारे प्रोसेसेस होते हैं लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म में जिसमें एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. और वो एनर्जी कैसे मिलती है किसी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म को? वो मिलती है बाय द प्रोसेस ऑफ रेस्पिरेशन. ठीक है. नाउ दिस इज द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ रेस्पिरेशन, व्हाई रेस्पिरेशन अकर्स, रेस्पिरेशन होने का पर्पस क्या होता है. नाउ विल कम टू डेफिनेशन ऑफ रेस्पिरेशन. Respiration can be defined as oxidation of food. एकदम सिंपल सी लैंग्वेज जो आपको रेस्पिरेशन को समझा सकती है, दैट इज ऑक्सीडेशन ऑफ फूड. ठीक है. तो वेरी सिंपल लैंग्वेज, इन लेमैन लैंग्वेज वी कैन से दैट रेस्पिरेशन is oxidation of food is oxidation of food. और food में क्या present होते हैं? Another definition which is more precise and which is a better definition of respiration. It can be that respiration is the process in which the carbon-carbon bonds that are present in the organic molecules which we get from food by using oxygen. And by using oxygen, when these carbon-carbon bonds that are present in the organic molecules, when they are broken down, there is release of considerable amount of energy, which is utilized or trapped to form ATP. So this is the more better definition of respiration. So we can say that respiration is the breakdown of the carbon-carbon bonds present in the organic molecules of food by using oxygen to release considerable amount of energy which is trapped as ATP, So this is the best definition that could define respiration. So what are those organic molecules? आपको पता है organic molecules में कार्बन की एक लंबी चेन होती है और इन्हीं कार्बन bonds के breakdown से energy release होती है. ठीक है? So what are these organic molecules that are present in food that are utilized to release energy? They are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So these are the organic molecules that are broken down to release energy. They are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These three are referred to as respiratory substrates. Out of these three, the most favored respiratory substrate is carbohydrate, that is sugar. And amongst the sugar, which sugar is broken down? It is glucose. So the most favored respiratory substrate, of which is commonly used within the organism to release energy, it is carbohydrate. So it is said to be the most favored respiratory substrate. And proteins and fats can be used as the respiratory substrate only in case carbohydrate is not available or its availability is less within the organism. So proteins and fats can be used as the respiratory substrates when carbohydrate is not available. When carbohydrate is not available or its availability is less within the organism, or it's less available. Apart from this, in some plants, organic acids, for example, one of the organic acid is malic acid. So in case of plants, organic acids can be also used as the respiratory substrate under certain conditions if required, if and when required. So it's only in case of plants. Organic acids can also be used. Organic acids, example, malic acid, can also be used as the respiratory substrate under certain conditions. Okay. So what can be the, how will you write the equation of respiration? इससे पहले आपने photosynthesis पढ़ा था. You must have gone through photosynthesis, जिसमें the raw materials were carbon dioxide and water, and the product that was formed was glucose. But during respiration, there is breakdown of glucose. As I already said, carbohydrate or sugars are the most favored respiratory substrate, and out of carbohydrates, it is glucose that is oxidized or that is broken down to release energy. So now we'll study about the equation. What is the equation of respiration? It is C6H12O6 plus 6O2 is equal to 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy plus some amount of energy is, though energy is released, out of the energy released, some amount of energy is also dissipated as heat. So we can say energy, some amount of energy is trapped as ATP, and some amount is dissipated as heat. So how much energy is trapped? How much energy that is released is trapped or utilized to synthesize ATP? It is 686 kcal or 2870 kilojoules. This is the amount of energy that is released during the process of respiration. So though the equation, by looking at the equation of respiration, it seems that when glucose, this is the complete breakdown of glucose. When glucose is completely broken down, completely oxidized, or completely broken down by using oxygen, the products that are formed by complete oxidation will always be carbon dioxide and water. So this is the equation of complete breakdown or complete oxidation of glucose. So though this equation looks like that it is taking place in a single step, but it's not true. Though by looking at this equation, you'll feel that it is taking place in just a single step. No, respiration takes place in, the entire respiration takes place in small steps, in a slow and stepwise manner, where each step is controlled by a specific enzyme. And whatever the energy that is released within each step, it is coupled to ATP synthesis. So respiration never takes place in a single step. It always takes place in a slow and stepwise manner, and each step is controlled by a specific enzyme, and whatever energy that is released in each step is coupled to synthesis of ATP. So we can say respiration takes place in a slow and stepwise manner. In a slow and stepwise manner, each step is controlled. Each step is controlled by a specific enzyme. So this is not a single step process. It's not a single step process. So we can say that respiration, because energy is getting released, 686 kilocalories or 2870 kilojoules of energy is released, and this energy is trapped to form ATP or to synthesize ATP. So how many moles of ATP are formed by the oxidation of 1 mole of glucose? How many moles of ATP are formed? They are 36. In case of eukaryotes, 36 or 38 moles of ATPs are formed. 36 or 38 moles of ATP are formed in eukaryotes. So in eukaryotes, the moles of ATP that are formed can be either 36 or 38 depending on the shuttle system used. We'll come later to shuttle system. So depending on the shuttle system used in eukaryotes, the ATPs that are formed by the breakdown of 1 mole of glucose is either 36 or 38. But in case of prokaryotes, since there are no membrane-bound cellular organelles, the respiratory process, entire respiratory process takes place in the cytoplasm. So the number of moles of ATP that are formed in prokaryotes is always 38 moles of ATP. We can say, because energy is getting released, we can say that respiration is an exergonic process. Exergonic processes are those in which the energy is released at the end of the reaction. So it's an exergonic process, and though respiration looks like a catabolic process because glucose is getting broken down, so it seems that it's only a catabolic process, but no. The truth is that respiration is an amphibolic process. It is both catabolic as well as anabolic. Though the equation seems that glucose is broken down and energy is released, so it should be catabolic. So why it is amphibolic? How come it is anabolic? Because some of the intermediates that are formed during the respiratory process, there are some metabolic intermediates that are formed in the respiratory process that serve as precursors for the biosynthesis of other molecules in the cell, in the organism. So we can say, very important, that respiration, we can say that respiration is an exergonic process. Respiration is an amphibolic process. It's an amphibolic process. That means it's both catabolic and anabolic. Because anabolic, why? Because some of the respiratory metabolites, intermediate metabolites that are formed during the process of respiration, they serve as precursors for the synthesis, for the biosynthesis of other molecules in the cell. That is why it's both catabolic, because there's breakdown of glucose to release energy, and it is anabolic because some of the intermediates, they serve as precursors for the biosynthesis of other molecules in the cell. Now we'll come to aerobic and anaerobic respiration. There are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, there are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. How are they said to be aerobic and anaerobic? Aerobic respiration वो respiration होता है जो एरोबिक ऑर्गेनिजम्स में होता है. एरोबिक ऑर्गेनिजम्स वो ऑर्गेनिजम्स होते हैं जो ऑक्सीजन के प्रेजेंस में सर्वाइव करते हैं. So aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of, in only and only in the presence of oxygen. When there is presence of oxygen, only will the aerobic respiration take place. इसके contrary, anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. There is no requirement of oxygen during anaerobic respiration. So first we'll study aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is, number one, complete breakdown of glucose. It is complete breakdown of glucose. What about anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen, which takes place in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration में क्या होता है? There is partial breakdown of glucose. There is partial breakdown of glucose. Here the equation will be, there is complete breakdown of glucose to form, what are the end products? To form CO2 plus water. Here there is partial breakdown of glucose to form pyruvic acid. So whenever there is complete breakdown of glucose, the energy released is more. Obviously when there is complete breakdown of glucose, जो energy release होगी वो कहीं उसकी मात्रा कहीं ज़्यादा होगी as compared to whenever there will be partial breakdown of glucose. So energy released is energy released is more. How much amount of energy is released? Energy released is more. It can be either 36 or 38. It can be either 36 or 38 moles of ATPs. Energy released is less. Energy released is less. Here, here the equation can be written as C6H12O6 plus 6O2 is equal to 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus energy and some amount of energy is always dissipated in the form of heat plus heat. Here the equation can be written as C6H12O6 is broken down to pyruvic acid CH3 C double bond O COOH. This is pyruvic acid. This is partial breakdown. Partial breakdown. This is pyruvic acid. This is pyruvic acid. Partial breakdown, and this is complete breakdown. So first step, glucose is broken down into partially broken down. There's partial breakdown of glucose into pyruvic acid. In the next step, complete breakdown. In the next step, pyruvic acid gets converted to lactic acid. Gets converted to lactic acid. Lactic acid plus how much amount of energy is released? Less than 7% of the energy stored in glucose. So in the next step, pyruvic acid can be converted to lactic acid, and the energy that is released is less than 7% of the energy stored in glucose. And this process is called as lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation, or either pyruvic acid gets converted to lactic acid, or pyruvic acid or pyruvic acid gets converted into C2H5 ethyl alcohol, or pyruvic acid gets converted to ethyl alcohol, plus how much energy is released? Plus CO, less than 7% of the energy stored in glucose. So in anaerobic respiration, which takes place in anaerobic organisms, so what are कौन से anaerobic organisms होते हैं? Anaerobic organisms, कुछ bacteria, certain prokaryotes and unicellular eukaryotes such as yeast. तो कुछ बैक्टीरिया में anaerobic respiration होता है in certain bacteria, and in yeast anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. They can survive in the absence of oxygen. तो उनमें एनर्जी रिलीज का प्रोसेस होता है एनारोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. तो एनारोबिक रेस्पिरेशन में एनर्जी जो रिलीज होती है वो कम होती, काफी कम होती है एज कंपेयर टू एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन, क्योंकि पहली बात एनारोबिक रेस्पिरेशन इज पार्शियल ब्रेक डाउन ऑफ ग्लूकोज. तो जब पार्शियल ब्रेक डाउन ऑफ ग्लूकोज होता है तो ग्लूकोज इज ब्रोकन डाउन इनटू pyruvic acid, partially broken down into pyruvic acid, and then pyruvic acid can either undergo lactic acid fermentation, so pyruvic acid gets converted to lactic acid, or it can undergo alcoholic fermentation when pyruvic acid gets converted to ethyl alcohol. And the energy released in both the fermentation is less than 7% of the energy that is stored in glucose. So first we'll study about aerobic respiration. First we'll study about aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, which takes place in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen. It is complete breakdown of glucose. It is complete breakdown of glucose. It takes place in 4 steps. The complete breakdown in case of aerobic respiration takes place in 4 steps. First is glycolysis. Glycolysis means, lysis means breakdown, glycos means sugar. So it is breakdown of sugar. First is glycolysis. So glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. Takes place in the cytoplasm. Second is link reaction. Second is link reaction, which takes place in the matrix of mitochondria. Which takes place in the matrix of mitochondria. Third is Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle, which takes place also in the matrix of mitochondria, within the mitochondria, Krebs cycle. And fourth is electron ETC or ETS, electron transport chain or system, which is present on the inner membrane of mitochondria, which is present on the inner membrane of mitochondria. So these are the 4 steps in which there is complete breakdown of glucose, and the end products that are formed are carbon dioxide and water, and there is formation of ATP. Now let's come to anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, which is partial breakdown of glucose to pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid. So during glycolysis, so glycolysis मैंने बताया कि aerobic respiration में भी होता है. तो glycolysis is the only mode of respiration. Glycolysis is the only mode of respiration in anaerobic organisms. So what happens? Glucose का partial breakdown होता है pyruvic acid में. ग्लूकोज का पार्शियल ब्रेकडाउन होता है पायरुविक एसिड में. Glucose, which is C6H12O6, it undergoes partial breakdown into pyruvic acid, CH3, C double bond O, COOH. This is pyruvic acid. This is, and what is the step? What is the process? It's glycolysis. Then there are 2 pathways. What will happen to pyruvic acid? Pyruvic acid will either undergo lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation takes place in certain bacteria or in exhausted muscle cells. Whenever we do strenuous workout or we run for a prolonged time, काफी वक्त तक दौड़ने या workout करने के बाद we get tired because there is accumulation of lactic acid. Due to lactic acid fermentation, there is accumulation of lactic acid in our muscle cells, striated muscle cells, or we can say skeletal muscle cells. So this is pyruvic acid. Now pyruvic acid pyruvic acid can either undergo lactic acid fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, which is found in certain prokaryotes and exhausted muscle cells, or it can undergo alcoholic fermentation. Example in yeast. Example yeast. Example is yeast. So let's first study about lactic acid fermentation. First, let's study about lactic acid fermentation. So whenever glucose is broken down in glycolysis, C6H12O6, this is a 6-carbon sugar. It's broken down into 2 moles of pyruvic acid, which is a 3-carbon sugar. 2 into pyruvic acid, which is a 3-carbon sugar. So lactic acid fermentation में क्या होता है? Pyruvic acid, 2 moles of pyruvic acid, this is pyruvic acid, is reduced to form 2 moles of CH3, CHOH, COOH. COOH. This is lactic acid. And during this process, NADH plus H plus There are 2 moles of NADH plus H plus. 2 moles of NADH plus H plus gets converted into NAD plus. NAD plus. This is lactic acid fermentation. An enzyme is lactate dehydrogenase. Dehydrogenase. Okay, it's pyruvic acid. Let's study about alcoholic fermentation. What about alcoholic fermentation? Alcoholic fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation, pyruvic acid, two moles, they get converted into acetaldehyde, CH3CHO plus 2CO2. This is pyruvate decarboxylase. Pyruvate decarboxylase. And in the next step, acetaldehyde, CH3CHO, gets reduced. The reducing equivalence hydrogen atom comes from NADH plus H plus to NAD plus, and there is formation of 2 moles of ethyl alcohol. This is alcoholic fermentation. And what about the energy that is released? Plus less than 7% of the energy stored in glucose. That's less than 7% of the energy that is stored in glucose. So this is alcoholic fermentation, and the maximum concentration of alcohol can be 13%, because if it is above 13%, if the alcoholic concentration is above 13%, there will be yeast poisoning. So yeast poisoning occurs at a maximum concentration whenever the concentration of alcohol will be above 13%. So maximum concentration of the alcohol should be 13% in case you don't have to undergo yeast poisoning. Let's study about aerobic respiration, which is the complete breakdown of glucose. So aerobic respiration the first step is glycolysis. Takes place in the, firstly, takes place in the cytoplasm. Secondly, no requirement of oxygen and no release of carbon dioxide takes place. Thirdly, it is a 10-step process. It is a 10-step process. It is a 10-step process. Steps 1, 3, and 10 are irreversible. Fifth, it is common in both aerobic and anaerobic organisms. It is common in both aerobic and anaerobic organisms. Number 6, step number 3 is the most important. Step number 3 is the most important. Step number 3 is the most important control point of glycolysis. Step number 3 is the most important control point of glycolysis. And okay, now we'll study how glycolysis, and another seventh number is, it is partial breakdown of glucose into 2 moles of pyruvic acid. Into 2 moles of pyruvic acid. So here firstly, glucose gets converted into hexokinase, gets converted into glucose 6 phosphate. Glucose 6 phosphate. ATP gets converted into ADP, and PI Inorganic phosphate gets attached to glucose. Enzyme is glucose 6 phosphate. So this is step number 1, which is irreversible. Enzyme is hexokinase. Step number 2 is reversible. Glucose 6 phosphate will get converted into fructose 6 phosphate. Now glucose and fructose, they are isomers. They are isomers. They are functional isomers. So the enzyme involved is isomerase. So this is step number 2. Again, step number 3 is fructose 1,6 bis phosphate. Fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. Enzyme is phosphofructokinase, PFK. This is also called as the pacemaker enzyme. Pacemaker enzyme of glycolysis. Fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. Another mole of ATP is required. ATP gets converted into ADP, and a molecule and an inorganic phosphate gets attached to fructose at the first position. Fructose 1,6 bisphosphate then divides into glyceraldehyde, 3-phosphate, and dihydroxy acetone phosphate. Dihydroxyacetone phosphate, both are isomers. Enzyme is isomerase. Dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So this was reaction number 3. This was reaction number 2. This was reaction number 3. This is reaction number 4. Enzyme is aldolase. Reaction number 4. Here enzyme is isomerase. Reaction number 5. There will be formation of 2 moles of 1,3-bisphosphoglyceric acid, and there will be dehydrogenation. H plus. Enzyme is dehydrogenase. Dehydrogenase. 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid. Enzyme is dehydrogenase, and there will be formation of 2 moles of 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid. Now this 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid will get converted into 3-phosphoglyceric acid. 3-phosphoglyceric acid, and ADP will get converted into ATP. 2